A fishy day. It was a hot and sunny day in late June. I got in my car and drove an hour down to Annapolis, Maryland, and parked my car by the boat docks. The reason being is because that day, my friends Colin, Steve, Frank, Chad, and I would go fishing on the Chesapeake Bay. We had planned this trip for a few weeks, and now it was finally going into action. The plan was to all meet at the boat docks at 8 a.m. and rent a small fishing boat for the day. When I arrived at the boat docks, Steve, Frank, and Colin were already there, though we still had to wait for Chad.
Man, what be taking that fish so long? He holding us up,
said Steve. Let me call him, Colin replied. Colin took out his phone and gave Chad a call. It took a few attempts for him to pick up, but soon he did. Colin put the call on speakerphone. Chad sounded groggy.
Morning plans,
he said. Chad, where are you? You're supposed to meet us in Annapolis at 8, said Colin.
Well, you see, I'm stuck in traffic,
Chad replied. Oh really? Can you prove it by switching onto a FaceTime call? Colin questioned.
No can do, Bruce. We wouldn't want to be distracted while driving now, would we?
Chad replied. Okay, well, be here soon then. Something didn't seem right with Chad, Colin mentioned. Yeah, you're right, I replied. I took out my phone and opened Snapchat where I looked at the snap map. Sure enough, Chad was lying. In fact, he wasn't even on the highway. Rather, he was at his house. His snap map icon showed him with the Z's over his icon, indicating he was asleep.
Man, fuck his ass. I'm getting on this boat without him,
said Steve. Same, Colin and I both said. We knew that Chad would take way too long to get ready and drive on down here. We figured that if he wanted to come, he can meet us out on the water somehow. We began walking over to our boat. Frank began having second thoughts. He said.
Man, you better shut your pussy ass up. Once we get out into the deep sea, I'll show you how a real man works,
Steve exclaimed. Whatever that meant. We found our boat and stepped on. It wasn't very good in quality. The floor was made of wood planks that had moss and were beginning to rot. The sides of the boat were white and stained with rust, and barnacles lined the area near the waterline. Well, for a bunch of broke college-age kids, it's the best we could do. It had a mini fridge on board too, which Steve immediately rushed to open, and once he opened that door, he was immediately repulsed back as he pinched his nose.
Oh, fuck that shit, man! Some motherfucker left a ball sack of cheese in this joint.
Steve was right. Inside the mini fridge was a sack of year-old cheese. The person that rented the boat before us likely left it in there from lunch. The cheese was the kind that hung in the sack as it ages. It was moldy, melted, gooey, and had flies swarming all in it. Ugh, Colin exclaimed as he stepped away from the fridge in disgust. I don't blame him.
Cheese!
Frank piped, in a pipsqueak voice, mind you. Oh, no you don't, mister, said Colin, running for the fridge. I gave Colin a padlock, and he put it on the fridge, locking it for good. Trust me, we don't need anyone getting into this cheese. It would make the trip a disaster for everyone's sake, Colin explained. Unfortunately, Colin would be right. We began sailing next. We sailed out into the bay until we couldn't see land anymore. We decided that was enough. Steve and Frank took out their fishing equipment. Steve wore a sleeveless tank top and Frank wore a cheesy t-shirt that read, Professional Masturbator on it. Steve then proceeded to put on a pair of cheap sport sunglasses, the kind that wraps around your face. He baited up his line next, with a live earthworm from a bucket we bought at a fishing shop earlier.
Man, just y'all watch. Pretty soon your boy gonna be reeling in the kraken,
Steve exclaimed as he began reeling his line. We were all silent as we fished. We were all pretty focused and even caught some. However, around 10 a.m. that morning, when we noticed that something just wasn't right, we were not catching any fish, literally not a single one. It went on like this for another hour. Suddenly, there was no wind, and everything was brought with a creepy stillness. That was when it happened. Yo, guys, I caught something. It's huge, Colin exclaimed. I looked over at Colin's rod and witnessed it bending to insane levels. It looked like it was about to snap in two. I'm gonna need some assistance with this, like right now, said Colin as he struggled. We ran over and tugged on the fishing pole as we tried to heave whatever monster fish was in the water. I couldn't believe his pole could handle all the weight. Come on guys, one more heave and we'll have it, I said. 3, 2, 1, lift! We lifted the fish out of the water. Except it wasn't a fish at all. No, rather, it was no one other than Herb and Ernie himself. Whoa! Exclaimed Colin as he let go of the rod, dropping it into the water. Herbert just bobbed around as he floated in the water. He seemed to float without treading water at all, as his blubber seemed to keep him afloat just fine. His triple chin rose to the surface, forming a ring-like shape around his head, almost making it look like he had no neck. Herbert then spit out a stream of seawater from his mouth before making his introduction.
Hurry, fellows! Didn't expect me, eh?
Whoa, I said. What are you doing here?
I'm Captain Funky Man. Since the Burrows were up here, so I came to guide you to Funky Island, where we will get funky, of course.
Herbert exclaimed. No, shouted Colin. Funky Island does not exist, and we will not be taking part in your schemes.
Nonsense. You Burrows are part of my crew now, and we better get started this instant. We're in a very tight time crunch. If we want to make it to Funky Island before the limo competition begins, then we better be on a roll.
Herbert, listen. You are not invited on our trip. Now get away from our boat, Colin demanded. Herbert then did the unimaginable. He began bouncing up and down on the water, except each and every time he bounced up and down, he would lift out of the water. It wasn't very much at first, like a few inches, but soon he was bouncing upwards of 7 feet in the air. He bounced up and down before landing on our boat deck. He then stood up. His outfit was more ridiculous than ever before. He wore a pair of lingerie on his legs and an old-fashioned button-up pirate vest on his torso, and a pair of Adidas slides revealing 3-inch-long toenails. He wore a fake pirate Blackbeard beard on his face, along with a pirate hat. His triple chin was accentuated by the Blackbeard beard, which had worms and many crabs and grease crumbs making a nest in it. Herbert stood there, breathing heavily for a few minutes. He then proceeded to make his way over the boat's steering wheel.
Next step, Funky Island,
he announced.
It is estimated that we will be sailing for quite some minutes, so buckle down and practice your boogie skills.
No, we came out here to fish, not to search for an island that doesn't exist. So either you follow what we came out here to do, or you leave our boat, said Colin. Guys, just let him be. He hasn't done anything too stupid yet, so as long as he behaves, then we can let him stay. But we can't spend our whole day arguing with him. We got fish to catch, I explained.
Yeah, man, we gonna catch a shit ton of fish. Now quit your bitching and cast your line back in the water,
said Steve.
Yay! Herbert can stay!
Frank piped.
That's right, Funky. Yay is right,
Herbert said creepily as he stroked his beard, almost as if he was planning something. We spent the next hour doing some more fishing. We had our boat anchored down, so we weren't moving, even though Herbert thought he was sailing towards Funky Island. Around noon, we all got hungry and decided it was time for lunch.
Right, I'm starving,
Steve exclaimed. Luckily, we had plenty of food we brought in the cooler. We went over to the back of the boat where the cooler was. However, it was nowhere to be seen, unfortunately. That's when we heard it. The sound of cellophane wrappers crinkling and chips crunching from the steering wheel area. We went back to the front and saw Herbert eating our food. He was munching on a bag of sour cream and onion potato chips as he steered the boat, even though it was quite obvious we weren't even moving. Herbert, what are you doing? That's our food, I exclaimed.
We're Seabows. Captain Funky Man needs his energy if we want to make it to Funky Island on time,
he replied. Can we at least have some? Colin asked.
You can do, boys. These snacks are reserved for Captain Funky Man only. But don't worry, there should be some snacks for the crew in the mini fridge,
Herbert exclaimed. We reluctantly made our way over to the boat's mini fridge. We opened it and were immediately repulsed by an awful stench.
What the fuck is that shit, G?
Steve exclaimed. We had completely forgotten about the cheese sack. That's when we realized the fridge wasn't even plugged in, and that cheese was deadly to even touch. It smelled so bad that we were so curious about it and what made it so toxic. I took out my phone and began searching the internet for what could possibly be the culprit. Eventually, I came across a type of fungi that was causing the stench. The description and scent matched exactly what it said online. The fungi was called Amanita fauloides, and it was extremely deadly to anyone who ingested it, as it would have untold consequences. I did some further research and found out that the cheese is borderline radioactive. Okay, it is crucial that no one touches this cheese, I sternly said. A voice said. We all turned around and were greeted by Herbert Ernie watching over us. He stood in a very wide stance, looking ready to question us, almost like a captain questioning his crew. Except he's not really the captain.
Did I hear cheese?
he questioned. No, Herbert. This cheese is dangerously radioactive, and we don't even know what it'll do if you eat it, Colin replied.
Insults, skip sabers. This cheese is the perfect source of energy for the limbo competition on Lady Island.
Herbert, I'm serious. Don't eat that cheese, I ordered. Herbert didn't listen, though. He barged through us and took the cheese off its hook. He held it above his head as if it was some sort of relic. The cheese wasn't even a solid. Rather, it was a liquid. Herbert, no! Colin shouted. But it was too late. Herbert opened his mouth to an unearthly size and inserted the cheese. He even ate the sack. He chewed it faster than I had ever seen a living creature chew, before promptly swallowing it. He then opened his mouth. Cheese goo was strewn throughout the inside of his mouth, and residue took massive resonance around it. He screamed. Herbert then proceeded to undergo some sort of transformation as a result of eating the cheese. He got in the crab pose and began shaking uncontrollably. His pupils became extremely dilated, and his crazy hair became even wilder. That's when he noticed his beard. The hair strands were clumped together with grease and dried up radio cheese that had solidified and had been encrusted in the crazy beard. He continued shaking uncontrollably. He was literally vibrating at this point. Screamed Herbert as he shook. He then proceeded to get extremely bloated before getting caught in a roll. He rolled all the way to the bow of the boat before being tumbled into the sea. We sailed away and clapped our hands together in satisfaction. Click that problem took care of itself, said Colin. Though, unfortunately, this would not be the case. We ate what we had left in the cooler, even after Herbert had eaten a lot of it for lunch. After that, we continued fishing. Frank cast his line into the murky water.
Yes, we got something!
He exclaimed. We all rushed over to help Frank, as he appeared to be having trouble with reeling in his catch. It was funny how he was struggling with it, though, as it wasn't even heavy. Though, Frank, no surprise that he was struggling with it. And we reeled it in and hoisted it up onto the boat deck. Exclaimed Frank as his catch flung over the railing, landing on the deck. His catch wasn't a fish, though. Rather, it was an old, decrepit pair of work boots. They had sea moss growing on them. Many tears were present in the soaked leather, and they had no soles in them either. We would have thought Frank would have been disappointed that he didn't catch a fish. But no, he was excited. He then took off his flip-flops that he was wearing and proceeded to slide on the boots. It was nasty. Frank then proceeded to tell me a story.
Eek!
Piped Frank. Yeah, I replied.
There's 5 crickets going off from the neighborhood last night.
Yes, Frank, I do. I heard him, I replied.
Yep, it was me.
I see, I said, pretending to laugh. Then Steve caught wind of Frank's story and decided to pipe it himself.
Man, that shit ain't nothing. One time I was out here fishing in this exact same bay. That's when a monster storm came and a kraken came on board. I put that motherfucker in a headlock and dragged its ass down to the bottom of the Mariana Trench. Once I killed it, I got the loot. He's what it dropped as my prize.
Steve then proceeded to reach into his drawstring bag and take out a bottle of Old Spice body spray, the Kraken Guard scent. He then sprayed himself liberally.
Whoa. Now your boat's gonna be the Kraken now.
We all continued fishing for another hour or so. It's around 3 in the afternoon when big storm clouds began to roll in. Uh-oh, said Colin. We were not prepared for any storms, as our boat was small and didn't have any indoor compartments of any kind. It was getting super windy, and we even felt some rain droplets too. Let's set up the tarp, I shouted. We did just that. We had brought with us a 14-foot by 14-foot tarp. We set it up and tied it above our heads, so as to stand under. As soon as we hunkered down under that tarp, it literally began dumping buckets of rain on us. The visibility was brought down to almost zero, and even though we were under a tarp, the wind still blew water in, getting us wet.
Oh shit, G! Fucking Kraken's coming back for round number 2! Good thing I sprayed the Kraken Guard, cause this motherfucker ain't taking advantage of my booty hole this time!
Exclaimed Steve as he began jumping up and down whilst punching the air as he was getting ready to fight. The combination of the hot weather, along with the rain, got Steve in some sort of paranoid delusion trance. A delusional trance that he was being hunted and that the Kraken itself was coming back to eat him, like we were all in danger. Our boat rocked back and forth as a result of the massive waves.
Whoa, man! I know what that mean! My booty hole too young to die! Whee!
exclaimed Frank as the ship rocked back and forth. We stayed hidden under the tarp for the next hour or so, till finally, the storm cleared up. It was around 3 in the afternoon now, and the rain and wind had stopped. However, the entire bay around us was now surrounded in a thick layer of fog. The sun only somewhat shined through, creating a reddish glow around us, which was pretty scenic. The atmosphere was still and quite creepy, as the water laid still without a single ripple. We couldn't see more than 30 feet in front of the boat. That's when it happened. We were looking at the still, empty water, when the smooth surface of it was then broken by a series of ripples. "What the?" said Colin. "Wonder what could be causing those ripples."
No, man, here it comes. The Kraken's here.
Steve worried. However, we soon were brought to attention what was actually causing the ripples. And no, it was not the Kraken. I must say it was something way worse. "Look!" exclaimed Colin as he pointed out to the water. There, we saw the silhouette of a rowboat with paddles attached to it, approaching from the fog. It paddled extremely slowly, as in slower than a snail's pace. Then we noticed a snail in it. It was no one other than Herbert Ernie himself. The only reason I could tell is because the fog highlighted his every feature, everything from the pirate hat all the way to the crazy beard.
Red sky light, trader's delight. Red sky in the morning, trader's in morning.
Exclaimed Herbert, very crazily. Though the catch to that statement is that it was afternoon, so yeah, whatever. Herbert then emerged from the fog. The rowboat he was sitting in had sea moss hanging from the side of it, and is made of rotten wood. He looked crazier than ever before. A look of craziness sat in his eyes, one that we had never seen before, one that stared into our souls as he slowly paddled. The crazy beard accentuated his triple chin tenfold. He then went on to say some words.
Trader at sea. You boys disobeyed the code of the Funky Bear regime. Now you must pay for your litany and work that dirty plank.
He exclaimed.
Or perhaps I'll dunk your heads in the brine.
Herbert's rowboat then scraped against the side of our boat. "Oh, no, 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 no!" Colin exclaimed. I don't blame him, as Herbert Ernie was in the process of attaching a rope ladder to the side of the boat and getting ready to climb up. He attached the rope ladder in a way that was weird though. Instead of tying it to the railing of our boat, he attached it using a portable hot glue gun. We were all extremely frightened as Herbert slowly began climbing the ladder, though I don't know why we were frightened in the first place though, because knowing Herbert, his plans always tend to fail. He exclaimed as the rope ladder fell off the side of our boat, plunging Herbert back into the water. Herbert should have known. He made the vital mistake of failing to let the hot glue cool before climbing the ladder. "Quick, let's get out of here," I said. We rushed to the steering wheel and hightailed it out of there and back to the harbor of Annapolis. We had had enough. The car at home was silent for the most part. I think we were all a little traumatized in a way. Later that night, around 10 p.m., I was in bed scrolling through YouTube. I got a text message from the group chat. It was Chad. It read, verbatim, "Bruce," on it. I then opened Snapchat and looked at the snap map and witnessed Chad at the Annapolis boat docks. "Bruce," Chad texted yet again. I was done. I was tired and had enough. Decided to call it a day. A fishy day.